Hello everyone, it's me, Butterfly Spirit 314. So guys, today on my lunch break, I was reading the book, The Lost Art of Listening. Currently, I'm in chapter 3, and on page 58 and 59 of the book, there were a few different lines of the book that stuck with me. So I'm going to talk about um, each of them briefly and stuff because it's pretty late at night and I am super tired. All right. So let me go ahead and flip to page 59. I'm actually flipping through the book here. Um, so on page 58, let me find the line here. Okay. So one line that stuck out to me is where the author is talking about the fact that people have different preferred times to talk. So, an example of this that I can just like pops up in my memory is that when it comes to my sister, for example, my sister has told me, because I used to call my sister when I was at work, and I would call her like in the morning and stuff. And one day my sister was just like, hey, don't call me from this time to this time because she had deadlines. She was super busy at work and stuff and everything. And so I know, not to call her, in the mornings and stuff like that, for example, because in her job, she's like, super duper busy and stuff and meetings and all that stuff and things. And when I would call her in the morning, she may be in a meeting, and of course, for her, it was probably pretty awkward and stuff. And one time, I called my sister, and it was a situation where it was about my brother, and it was just a situation where like she was like, okay, yeah, no, and we had dragged her into an argument, and yeah, it didn't go so well. So, people have preferred times when they want to talk. And, I think it's good to set boundaries of when you want to talk to people, or when is the preferred time for people to talk to you. Because, you don't, like for my sister, she doesn't want to have like managers like being like, hey, what's going on? Like, why is it that you're getting these phone calls and everything from your siblings? Like, what's going on? You know, it's not a good look. So I do think it's true, we have preferred times when we want to talk and everything like that. And, we do. Um, I'm the type of person that when it comes to talking, I can talk and talk and talk and talk. That's something I get from my dad, like where I can just go on and talk for a long time and just keep talking. And I found this to be like, I found where like my ex, he was like I would be talking to him, and I could basically be talking to him like I could be talking to him for like 10 minutes already or 30 minutes. And he just gets talked out so fast. Like he'll be like, "Okay, yeah, I'm talked out." And here I am. I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not even 10 minutes. Yeah, it's only been 30 minutes." Like, honey, it's only been like an hour. Like, aren't you as excited about this as I am? Like, come on, you know? And so, like, for me, like, I find it a great time to, just be, if I'm, like when I was in college, I could just be just talking up a storm, and things and just be talking. For him, like, he would be like getting off work and he'd just be like, man, I'm tired, but yet, like he's hearing me talk and I'm, like how, if I don't know if you guys know, like Charlie Brown, or whatever, like how teachers would be like, wah, 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 wah. Well, eventually, I'm sure to like To my ex, I probably sounded like that after a while and stuff because he would be super tired, you know? So, yeah, people definitely have preferred times. And there would be times where, like, he would be talking to me about something and excited about something, and I'm just um, like, I don't get it, and so it's like we're like the opposites, like when I'm like wanting to just talk, 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 then like he can't, keep up with it, you know, when he just wants to talk, 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 like when he'd be telling me like about a game or something like that a while ago, like years ago, I would just be like, okay, and I just wouldn't be as interested, and so like it's all about like trying to find a time to talk where like both of you guys can be engaged in the conversation together and stuff. And sometimes that can come with a challenge, because sometimes we don't know if another person is going to be interested in what we're interested in. Sometimes we may not say something to somebody because we don't think they're interested. We're like, oh no, I shouldn't say this to them because they might get bored, and they may just, what's the point of me doing that? Let me just save them from all this boredom. When in reality, we might be, shooting ourselves in the foot by not giving the other person a chance to, learn about our days or whatever, because, we never know. They might be interested, we don't have to wall ourselves off, and keep things from people. And I'm guilty of this too, because like I'm the type of person I can not say something, even though something's bothering me. I could like not say it, but the sucky thing is that eventually it would come out later. But it would come out later in an argument, which is probably not the best time when I could have handled it earlier, and stuff. So yeah, that's a thing, where um, finding a time to talk to somebody can, like a time where you both feel like ready to talk, could be good. And sometimes like there's places that you probably don't want to be talking for a long time. Like if you are in an environment where, let's say, you and your significant other would constantly argue in the same room. Well, if your significant other hears you say, we need to talk, and you're in that particular room, their defenses may go up real fast because they're anticipating, okay, it's going to be an argument, you know, and they're going to be like, well, I'm going to be the one getting blamed and told I need to change and all this stuff like that. So, one thing the book says to do about that is if you have to have, if you have been in a room where you've had misunderstandings, with people, or there have been distractions in that same place, it's a good idea to, kind of ditch the space and kind of go to a different, place to talk about something and discuss things, in another environment where there's, where the energy is clear. And sometimes it can be good to, do some like energy clearing. You guys can get like energy clearing candles or whatever and stuff, and kind of, sage the room that you guys are in or something and everything, just to kind of renew the energy, in the room, or make the room look different, and maybe then have the conversation. That's just my 2 cents that I'm throwing in and stuff. But yeah, like it didn't dawn on me like that the memories of misunderstandings or arguments or disagreements can attach themselves to particular places until today. And the part about people being wanting to talk at different times, that rang true today to me too. And I was like, oh wow. So, I'm really finding this book to be really interesting. And I did answer one of the questions that was in here in chapter one, and I wrote about it um, last night and stuff. I plan to um, like do more of the exercises so I can learn how to be a better listener. The exercise, a question that I was doing last night, it was about, in particular, it was about, um, well, I think I did two of them. One was about when I have good news, like who do I tell? How do I tell them? You know, um, what's the person's reaction? When I, tell them good news. So I did that exercise, and another exercise question I did was one about, you know, another one I did was about who do I know that is a good listener? Um, what is it that this person does that lets me know that they're a good listener? Are they the type of person that, they let me just get whatever I have to say off my chest and, like where they don't interrupt? Are they a person that asks questions? Are they a person that, express interest in what I'm saying? Um, and seems genuinely interested. What is it that this person may do that lets me know that they're a good listener? And they also go on to say, like, are there any qualities that I can take on from that person to become a better listener? So those are two exercises that I've done so far and stuff. I plan to do more of them, but this author is really opening my eyes to listening and everything, you know. Now, in terms of distractions do happen in conversations and stuff, and they can. I mean, we have phones. Our phones can go off while we're having a conversation with somebody, and that may or may not annoy the person who we're with, who we're having the conversation with, and different things can be distractions to people. Not just a phone. I mean, somebody can knock on your door or something while you're in the middle of a conversation. That could be a distraction. It could be a distraction if a pet, jumps on your lap and you start paying attention to the pet, that could be a distraction, you know. Um, just different things can probably be a distraction. If you're cooking or something, let's say you're trying to have a serious conversation with somebody and then your food in the oven beeps or something like that, in that regard, you know, it could be a distraction because you don't want the food to burn, and right when you're in the middle of the conversation, the food beeps in the oven, like in the oven is done, and you get up and leave. That can be a distraction, from you being able to do what it is you like, discuss what you're trying to discuss, to get to some type of solution. So there's all types of things that can be a distraction. Sometimes our emotions can be a distraction. Sometimes, we can be so focused so much on our emotions and how we're feeling that we may fail to listen to the other person because we're in our own heads and maybe we're hearing only what we want to hear. I can say I'm guilty of that. Not going to shy away from it, you know, because I have been, and that's like something I'm working on, you know. But yeah, I mean, I'm really learning a lot about listening. I know I'm only in chapter three, but I feel like I'm making progress. So far, I'm on page 62. And this book has, oh my goodness, let's see how many pages it has. La, 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 la. This book has, goodness, let me see how many pages it has. This book has, um, 308 pages. 308 pages. So I got my work cut out for me. But, 68 pages in is pretty good because um, eventually I'll get to 100. Once I get to 100, you know. And I feel like once I get to 100, I feel like I'm like, I feel like it's really going to have like an impact on my mindset and stuff. But I can tell like the more I read this book, the more like of a better listener I become. There's more things I'm kind of catching myself doing and stuff. When I'm in conversation with people. So, but I'm super tired, guys. Oh my god. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video and hearing what I'm learning about and hearing about the exercises I've done so far. And I hope to learn more stuff, more things that's more enlightening. I mean, I had no idea somebody could write a 308-page book about listening. And this book, people rave about this book. This book has like 4.5 stars and stuff. People love this book about listening. And I'm just like, people may say, well, what more about listening can there be? But there's a lot that goes into it. And there's a lot of helpful tips in here too. Like if you guys are wanting to learn more about being like a good listener. And yeah, there is a difference between hearing and listening. Just because you hear what somebody says doesn't mean that you're listening to them. You know, it doesn't mean that. Because what they're saying to you, it may not arrive to you because of any number of factors that's going on, you know, around you or in the conversation or whatnot. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Bye bye.